We call them the Forever Coogs, but they felt a lot more like the Cardiac Coogs tonight, if we're being really, really honest.
You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Coogs, the daily podcast about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth, joined once again by Mike Brown because the good luck keeps on going. And I thank you for making us your first listen of the day, or I guess maybe your last listen of the night if you're tuning in live with us right after the game. Either way, thank you for making us whatever listen of the day we are. But Mike, the question of the day has got to be, what's the highest you think you've ever seen your heart rate at? Because there were moments in that game that I was off the charts. I didn't know I'd be doing that this summer. I thought we were done with that.
It's such a wide range of emotions, right? They're the Cougs. Like, that's the only way I can put this. Like, if you're a diehard University of Houston fan and you followed this program for years, you're used to this. This is what we do. And this team, I can't believe I'm saying this. I said it to you off air. I'm going to say it here. I didn't expect to fall in love with the Forever Coogs. I mean, I'll be honest with you. 8 weeks ago, I was like, okay, the TBT. Ooh, it's the TBT. U of H, first time there. And then you watch this team, and you're like, okay, they beat Texas. Well, it's a good time anytime you beat Texas, right? Then you play Boise State, and you're like, okay, there was a point in that game. They were down 8-10 points, and they just come crawling back, and they pull you back in. And then you go into the game tonight, and we're getting beat like a drum nearly the entire game. And as we enter the fourth quarter, all of Houston Cougar Nation, the millions of people watching this game, are all looking at each other. We're like, all right, here it comes. They're going to come crawling back. And we're all looking at each other like, okay, here we go. And then we get to the Elam ending. We're like, okay, we've seen this story before. They're not going to lose this game. And then Darren Collison, unfortunately, turned his ankle, got hurt. Look, all the momentum was with U of H. It doesn't matter if Darren Collison was there or not. And here are your Cougars, the first time in the TBT in the quarters. It's a beautiful sight.
I think you're right that Darren Collison turning his ankle sealed it. I don't think, like you said, I don't know that it was like the moment. So for folks listening at home that are wondering why we're talking about the Houston Cougars or Darren Collison, that maybe like are missed the last couple episodes, we're talking about the basketball tournament. It's been a little over a decade. Every summer, winner gets $1 million, financial incentives along the way. Yada. First year, U of H has had a team. They've been playing at the Fertitta Center. They just played in the regional final and played a team called Team Challenge ALS. Now, most of these teams are alumni groups. Team Challenge ALS is more of people that have some sort of a tie to someone or know somebody with some reason to want to promote awareness, but also raise money for fighting ALS. And so while you never want to knock out a charity, this was anything but charity. Houston and Team Challenge ALS fought tooth and nail for a long time. Darren Collison, All-American at UCLA back in the aughts, played 12 or 13 years in the NBA, led them for a lot of the game, did turn his ankle there at the end. I want to ask you, had you ever heard of their actual leading scorer, though, a guy named Vance Jackson?
I have not heard of Vance Jackson before I did my deep dive into Team Challenge ALS. I was very impressed with Luis Rodriguez.
Luis Rodriguez, too.
That's a guy that will be playing at the NBA level, probably in the G League, but that's a dude that just prototypical baller in today's day and age. Like, just does everything well.
Part of the fun of this is that you're finding names that you maybe forgot about or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Vance Jackson bounced around some in college, finished at Arkansas in 2021. Next spot I find him is playing for the Salt Lake City G League team earlier this season. Luis Rodriguez, I think, also had double-digit points. I forget. He just finished his 6th year of college. And so while that is a long time in college, he also has not played pro basketball of any kind yet. And so I think, like you're saying, this kind of felt like an audition for him. Some real impressive basketball on the side of Team Challenge ALS. But this is Locked On Coogs, and the Forever Coogs played their own brand of impressive basketball. So I'm going to throw it to you. Do you want to start with Justin Gorham or Rob Gray? Because those are my co-MVPs of that game.
I mean, first of all, before I get to them, this coaching staff has done a whale of a job. I mean, they're pushing the right buttons and they're getting out of the way at the right times. Like when it's Rob Gray time, it's Rob Gray time. And everybody gets out of the way when they know it's Rob Gray time. But my favorite player to watch in this tournament, bar none, and I've got to see him 3 times up close and personal, is Justin Gorham. This is a guy that is and when I say this, it's going to sound a lot more I'm trying to make it as lively as possible. He dragged the carcass that was this on the court at times because they've looked dead at times. They still can't shoot.
And they're not young. It was 3rd game in 5 days. Gorham's energy, though, let's talk to that, because I thought Gorham's energy was like, I was surprised he only had 12 and 6. If I just watched the game and didn't keep track, I would have thought he had more. But his energy plays were the big deal.
There's so many things that he does that does not show up in the box score. There was a play in the Elam ending where he and Devin Davis, guy was driving to the bucket. I think it was Rice for them, Tyrese Rice, and this is after Collison went out, that they both knocked the ball out of Rice's hands, out of bounds. And it stayed with ALS, Team ALS. But that doesn't show up in the box score. What Justin Gorham is so good at is he's going to make your life miserable. And when I say miserable, I mean, did you ever see the movie Coach Carter?
Yeah. Like, the guys remember all those suicides or whatever.
Justin Gorham reminds me of the big guy in Coach Carter. When he was playing, they were playing in the playoff game where, like, I forgot his name. I forgot his name in the movie, but like where he is playing Ty Crane and he's just in his face the whole game. And the whole game is just right here. That's what Justin Gorham is. And tonight, I mean, yes, those 2 are the MVPs tonight. There's so much this team can get better at as they head into the quarters. But the theme of this tournament, and I got to tell you, man, even if U of H doesn't play in this tournament next year, I'm all in. This is so much fun. Because it's like another March Madness tournament in the summer is what this is. You win and move on. It doesn't matter if you win by 1. It doesn't matter if you win by 25 like Kentucky did tonight. A win is a win is a win. And those are the 2 MVPs tonight. And I thought Tashawn Thomas, I thought he looked slow and lethargic at times tonight. But there were also moments where you had to have buckets, and he went and got you buckets. And like that is the quietest 12-point performance I've ever watched. Ever.
I feel like, so when he had 12 points, whoa, he only had 12. And then I looked up and he had 5 made field goals. I was like, oh, but I feel like I remember the moments of the 5. Like they were very important moments for the 5 field goals. We have talked about the other guys. If the other co-MVP is Rob Gray, we shouldn't go too far. He had 23 points, lit it up in the 4th. 4th and Elam ending were all Rob Gray time.
And you know what? 6 of 6 from the free throw line. This team missed so many free throws tonight that could have cost them the game. He set the tone at the free throw line, and they've got to get better there and behind the 3-point line. You can't shoot 6 of 21, or what was it? 6 of what were they tonight? 6 of 20. Yeah, 6 of 21. From the you got to shoot better. Line. You got to shoot better from the 3-point line, but they're doing just enough to win. But him 6 of 6 at the free throw line was massive tonight as well.
He's got the switch. And we were talking as things were getting set up before the show started, where he ranks all-time Houston Cougars. And we'll probably have that discussion when this whole thing is said and done, because I think this is kind of reminding people of something, because we've seen since him Grimes and Sasser and Shed, and he's in that class. They just weren't the same program yet. He's part of the reason it got there. And he's reminding a lot of folks that right now. He's got a great international career going. I wonder if he picks up a G League deal this whole thing. I mean, he really is. He's a 6'1" 2 guard, and I get why people are skittish on that. But the dude is just full speed ahead, all gas, no brakes, every other metaphor you want to about, like, I'm attacking, I'm always putting pressure on the rim, I'm always putting pressure on my defender. He's just full go. It's just so much fun to watch. And I'm glad we get to keep watching. We're looking at a quarterfinal performance with either the Kansas alumni team or the Colorado alumni team. We're not done talking about this one yet, but that does mean the Houston Cougars are going to keep playing. They win 75-70. Before we get to comments, I want to remind you guys that if you're looking for tickets to the basketball tournament, quarterfinals, or whatever you're trying to find, Astros tickets, concert tickets, theater, comedy, anything, Game Time is the place to do it. Game Time has all things you need to make sure you're getting the best prices guaranteed. Download the app today. Use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. I like Game Time because you can go to your section and row and see like what the view is for that venue at that type of event, which can be really important in concerts. I also think it's really great they have this lowest price guarantee, or if you find the same section and row somewhere else, they'll credit you on your Game Time account 110% of the difference. It's the best deal going in finding tickets to anything you want to go do. So go check it out right now. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code Locked On College, LSCKED, ONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. All right, so as we look at this, we can keep talking about this game. When it felt like Houston was going to lose it, though, I thought, like you mentioned, the shooting was a problem. I also felt like they needed some fresh legs, and they're about to get that, weirdly. If you've been following along, LeDeeky and Fabian White have been caught up doing G League, Summer League stuff, right? And they just hit town and are eligible to play in this tournament. They were on the team, but they kind of knew in advance that based on how the G League thing went, they wouldn't be able to make it back in time or whatever. And all indications are that both LeDeeky and Fabian White are able to play the rest of the tournament. There's no indications of any health thing. I mean, LeDeeky just played in the G League championship game on Monday night, right? Like we saw him play basketball, saw him moving around fine. What do they bring to the table as you see? I think LeDeeky does a lot of great things for this team, even if he's not the like highest scorer. But pick one. What do you think they bring to this group, Mike?
Oh, I mean, I think you start with LeDeeky, where we mentioned it the first show we did on Friday. You could put him on their best player, guard wise. Think of, if we match up with Kentucky in the finals and, we have to go cover one of the Harrison brothers. Deaky, go get one of the Harrison brothers and go shut that down. Go cover Eric Bledsoe. Think about, if Kentucky or if Kansas wins tomorrow night, we end up playing Kansas in the quarters. You look at a guy like Brandon Rush or Frank Mason. That's a LeDeeky type of matchup. Then you look at Fabian White. Fabian White, one of the most talented offensive big men I've seen in quite some time at the University of Houston. The dude can just go get buckets. And in this tournament, it's so weird because as the tournament progresses, it's the same thing as the NCAA March Madness tournament, right? It's a guard tournament. If you have the guards, you're going to go far in this tournament. But you also have to have those guys inside to rebound and to go get those easy buckets. Because every bucket in these games matters. And it's like, oh, no dumb, Mike. No, but I mean, when you're playing 9-minute quarters and you have the Elam ending, every single point matters. In the first quarter, from the first tip, if you can get points, go get points. You have to accumulate them as quickly and as quickly as possible.
There's no time to be lackadaisical. I guess it's technically a 36-minute game with 4 9-minute quarters. With the Elam ending, it can be much quicker. I want to talk about what I think Fabian White brings, because I think it is a guard-led tournament, and I actually think Fabian still helps us out some being a bigger guy. But I want to point out something Andrew Gutierrez comments as we're going live here on YouTube. He says, what changed the game with the fans going at it with the ALS team? Definition got in their heads. CA37 adds that he thinks home court advantage helped the Forever Coogs in these games. Hosting a regional was a big deal at the Fertitta Center. And we talked before the tournament started that it was nice to see the guys that kind of helped build this program to what it is get to play in the Fertitta Center. A lot of these guys didn't play in the Fertitta Center in their college careers, played in Old Hofheinz, right? Which is a very different building. What did you make of the home? I mean, it wasn't a sold out stadium like when Houston plays Kansas, but it does feel like the crowd had impact.
Oh, it 100% had impact. Even sitting in the press box up in section 119, you felt it. And what they did at the Fertitta Center, which is so smart, they packed that club area right behind the benches. So what Andrew was saying, that the fans who were sitting on, behind the opposing team's bench made a difference. Having your fans right behind you when, Rob Gray hits the three and the place goes nuts, that makes a difference. And this team right now is locked in. When you have guys like Rob Gray, Justin Gorham, when you have a guy like Wes Van Beck, who still, death taxes and Wes Van Beck's going to put up shots, when he's hitting, it's the mentality of a Wes Van Beck who was a walk-on. He had to earn his spot on the team when he was there. That type of mentality is so crucial in a tournament like this. When it's one and done, that's a guy who's played in a lot of big games. And so have a lot of these other guys, Rob Gray and Gorham and Fabian White and LeDeeky Giroux. We've talked about the good about these guys coming in, but I do think that there's another side to this coin that they have to be very cautious of, and that this team is humming right now. When you bring in one guy who is going to change the rotation, that's hard enough. You bring in a second guy, arguably you're bringing in now your second and third best players, I should say, to the team. How does that impact Devin Davis? How does that impact Justin Gorham? Does he get the same type of minutes and touches that makes him effective? So they've got I'm not going to say a big problem because it's not a big problem, but it's a problem it's a great problem to have, but it's still a problem.
Well, and so Fabian joins the group, and that's why I was actually thinking that he may make a bigger difference, is I feel like the front court, the true forwards, have a little bit less depth than the guards. And I don't know, I don't think you cannot play LeDeeky. I don't mean that, but I think it was really needed, right? So first of all, I should say it's nice to have a Houstonian back in Houston playing on the games, right? Like he went to, I believe, Atascocita, went to U of H. He had a year in the G League with South Bay, the Lakers. He played in France last season, and then this summer was playing in the G League for the Rockets. I don't know if he'll make it the Rockets. Rockets have 1,000 guys under 25 years old, so who knows, right? But I do think you shake your head. I didn't mean to bring up a sore subject. Okay. I do think, though, that on this team, all the forwards are 6'8", so he's not outsized or anything like that, like a pro team might think so. And B, we saw moments where it looked like, man, Tashawn Thomas has been out there a long time. Justin Gorham's been going super hard, might need a blow soon. Like, he fits that rotation's more natural to me. Whereas putting in LeDeeky with the guards, I think LeDeeky is going to do a great job of setting stuff up, but they're still going to need to find ways to get Rob Gray to score, right? The scoring output is still going to come from 32. I
actually think the opposite, though. I think Deaky's a better fit on this team than Fabian White is.
So where are you seeing that? Because I'm thinking just rotational stuff. Are you seeing stuff on the floor?
Well, because to me, this is an easy swap in, swap out. Chandre Jones, love him. You're going to the bench. Like that. Yeah. Wes Van Beck, love you, but your minutes are about to be decreased. And because that's a natural slot in, slot out. With Gorham and Thomas, now you all of a sudden, you're like, okay, where does Fabian White fit? Because Fabian White's got to be on the floor. Fabian White's one of your 5 best. So, you look at the Devin Davises of the world. I think Levante Pollard, I think, is done. I don't think he's playing in this next game. We forget about Pollard,
He didn't play a whole lot in this one.
No. And I thought he would have played a bigger role tonight, but they kept KO, pretty much at home tonight. He had 4 and 6. But that's what the University of Houston basketball men's program does, is shut down the things that work well for the other team. Like, they zero in on those types of things. So that's why, in your opinion, who's the starting 5 when they play? Let's say they play Sunday night. What is your starting 5? Let's say everybody is available. Who do you start?
Well, I'm hoping it's later than Sunday, but I would think your backcourt has to start with LeDeeky, and you have Rob Gray at the same time. I think the nice thing is having LeDeeky run point and Rob Gray play the 2 guard is defensively they can just flip flop if the better, because at 6'1", 6'5", they're just both on the floor. Agreed. Right? At the wing spots, the 3. So they've been playing Melvin Frazier, who's not a U of H alum. I think he's the one from Tulane, right?
Yeah.
I've really liked him. I think
Yep.
he's a nice guy that can he'll find a spot on the floor, catch and shoot, catch and drive. I think he still stays there.
Big three tonight in the third quarter to cut the deficit from 8 to 5. And massive shot by him in the third.
And he had his feet really set, and it looked really good. He'd missed two earlier that I was like, I don't know, man. But he made it. I think I start Gorham and White and bring Tashawn Thomas off the bench. I think Tashawn Thomas's minutes, while he at his peak of his career, might have actually been better. That's a discussion for another time. I think he's a little bit older guy. You might want to put less minutes on his legs. And so I would probably rotate it that way. I also have to say that honestly, if I'm looking at it like the guy's going to warm up before the game starts, back in the day when Dirk Nowitzki was playing at like 40 years old or whatever, he said, I'd rather start and play 6-man minutes because once I warm up, I don't want to sit down. So I guess you could talk me into that if that's the way it goes. But I would play Gorham and White starter minutes and pull Thomason off the bench. But that's just my 2 cents. I will say, I see a lot of positives to that. I'm like you, though. I don't know how much more Wes Van Beek gets than he's had.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that it's not a problem, but take it from somebody who's coached and played for many years. It's when you add those different pieces, when you got something working. Like what they have right now is this team is just gritty. But when you can put talent ahead of that grittiness, you got to massage that a little bit. You can't just throw caution to the wind and say, okay, you're going to go play 40 minutes tonight with a group that you haven't played with before. And this is both guys. But I said it the other night, I don't care who they play next week or whenever they play, U of H is going to be favored either over the Kansas team or the Colorado team. If this team plays to their potential, neither one of those teams should stay within, I would say, 5 to 7 points. Again, that's what I said about tonight. And what did we win by 5? We won by 5 tonight. Right. Yeah, I think my prediction the other night, tonight, would have been 5 to 7 points. That's about right for this team. They're not going to give up a lot of points. They're not going to score a ton of points. But you add in LeDeeky and Fabian to this already really talented TBT team, good luck is what I say to the rest of the tournament.
So let's jump into that next round in 1 second.
Sure.
All right, so Houston versus Kansas, I hope, is becoming a Big 12 rivalry because it's a fun one. It's 2 great basketball programs.
Yeah.
Mass Street is, I guess, somewhere in Lawrence. I don't know, but it is the Kansas alumni team, right? Mass Street, and then the Colorado alumni team is just Team Colorado. But they have a handful of pros on both teams. I have to admit, I do think the Kansas team looks better as I look at it. So while they will play tomorrow night, as we're recording this on Tuesday night, so if you listen to it Wednesday morning, they play on Wednesday night to decide who will meet up with Houston in the quarterfinal and the equivalent of the Elite Eight, right? If you're looking at a March Madness style bracket, I would project Kansas. Is that fair? Would you say Colorado?
It's so weird, dude, because Kansas is the better team, but a lot like the tournament. It doesn't matter if you're the better team. It doesn't matter if you have the most talent. It's, can you get hot at the right time? You look at the other side, just real quick at this tournament, there's this upcoming round. You got Louisville against Kentucky. It looks like that's going to be a phenomenal game.
And it's going to be packed. It's going to be packed.
If you can have a chance to watch that game, Kentucky's the better team, but Louisville, if you watch Louisville, led by Rockets legend Montrezl Harrell,
we got another Rockets legend to talk about in a second, actually.
Yeah, Kentucky legend and Rockets legend Willie Cauley-Stein as well. Louisville's getting hot at the right time. I could very easily see Louisville winning that game. Between Kansas and Colorado, Kansas is going to be favored. I think Kansas is going to win. But Colorado is one of those scrappy, just like, it's that weird team you don't want to play this late in the game. Because if they can find a way to just stay in the game with Kansas until the end, that Elam ending is a game changer. They could be tied. You get hot. If Colorado's down 2 going into that Elam ending and hits 2 threes in a row and they're up 4 and they're within 4 points of winning, it's a total just, oh my God, game changer. So I think Kansas wins, and then I think U of H beats Kansas. U of H ends up in the semis is my official prediction.
Well, and so I want to point out one question was about the payout for winning. It looks like it's whatever percentage of the gate and revenue for hosting goes to the team that wins the region. Houston wins theirs. I bring that up because in looking at it, the Kansas regional is being played in Wichita, Kansas. That's not quite the same at home as Fertitta was for the U of H alumni group, but I do think that will play some role in this. Of notable alumni, as far as folks at home go, Colorado is led by Andre Roberson. He was on those Thunder teams, the first iteration of good ones that had like Durant and Westbrook and those guys on them. When
Good player.
And great defensive player, and frankly a tough matchup. 6'7" wing guy, good defender. More locally, I guess Michael Holyfield on the Colorado team actually went to Sam Houston State. Sam Houston State didn't have a team. He's playing with Colorado. As far as Kansas goes, though, you've got Brandon Rush. Frank Mason III had a great college career. And then Rockets legend, T-Rob, Thomas Robinson, has kind of made a name for himself in this tournament. He's been on the team for Kansas every year that they've had a team. It feels like a tournament made for a 6'9" center that plays a lot of energy. That's the better team to me, right? That's like they just got a lot of guys.
100%. He is by far one of the 5 worst Rockets of all time. Like, he had so much. I
didn't say what the legend was.
No, I know. But like, I was so excited when we got Thomas Robinson. I'm like, oh, finally, like an athletic freak to come in. Goodness gracious, that guy was horrible. I mean, he airballed free throws. It was just stupid defensively. Like, I mean, it was god awful. He was up there with Royce White of god awful Rockets.
Oh, Royce White had other questions. Like he had questionable like things going on between his ears and stuff and all kinds
100%.
of.
Oh yeah.
So as I look at this, I think like Frank Mason, Rob Gray is like the best short guard matchup. Well, Houston's got the better guard. I look at like Brandon Rush, who they got listed at 6'6". I didn't realize he was that tall, but I still think of him as like a good matchup that LeDeeky can probably cover 100%. At this point in his career. And then we go to Thomas Robinson. He's got like more muscles on him than Fabian or Gorham, but I think we win that. I think we win at each spot is what I'm saying. Yeah. And then the filler guys, I like Melvin Frazier. I like what Chandra Jones has done, frankly, at this point as a backup point guard, who I'm assuming will get moved to the backup spot moving forward. I really like for Houston Forever Coogs chances to move forward in this.
I do too. Devin Davis too.
Devin Davis stepping in.
They win on the margins against either of these teams, and they match up really well with both Colorado and Kansas with the superstars that each team has. U of H is the best of the 3 teams.
Well, and I hadn't gotten to the whole tournament yet, but then suddenly I'm assuming that this quarterfinal game is like next Tuesday or Wednesday, because then the semifinal is next Friday and the final is next Sunday. So we're talking about a little over a week from now, and that would kind of evenly space things out a little bit. Mm-hmm. There's a real shot here that some Cougs are about to get some money. I don't want to, put the cart before the horse here, but is this the kind of thing that like we need to continue to pump up? I know you and I like it, so we're talking about them Locked On Coogs, right? Forever Coogs, Locked On Coogs. But what, like, does there need to be more momentum behind these guys? I mean, this is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it's tough right now. I mean, the thousands of listeners that we have here at Locked On Sports that listen to the shows, phenomenal, right? It's hard to get behind the team without being able to watch them, right? Like, I've been in the building for these 3 games. This team is so much fun. But it's hard when it's not on Fox or they're not on FS1. It's hard. But as they continue to win and they get on the FS1, they get on Fox, and U of H fans can see this team. Is it as cool as winning a national title? No, it's not. But if you take this for what it is, which is, what else are you going to watch right now? The Astros losing to the Oakland Athletics? Like, you were better off.
Is it that bad? I want to check. Oh, yeah. It's bad.
So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so much. This team is a really fun gap between training camp starting in the NFL and preseason football starting. Like, you have this team to follow next week and learn about this week. Like, in my opinion, yeah, why not? I mean, what else are you going to do? You can only watch so many reruns of Law & Order SVU on USA, right? You can only watch so much Storage Wars. Like, watch this, your University of Houston Cougar team. And they're getting love on social, though. Like, in the Twitter streets, this team is getting love, which I appreciate. And I think with LeDeeky coming in and Fabian and the University of Houston men's basketball Twitter account does a really good job. Like, some of these schools, I think, their Twitter accounts aren't backing the team like they should. U of H is right there. They're after every quarter, halftime, all those kinds of updates. They're doing a really good job of. So if you're locked in on Twitter, stay locked in, because this team is good enough to beat whoever in the quarters and in the semis. I don't know if they're going to be favored against Kentucky, because I think Kentucky is going to make it. If I was a betting man, they're making it to the finals on the other side.
Kentucky's has several recent NBA players. So I think that's why they're the betting favorite if you're going to go to FanDuel.com and do that kind of stuff on it. But I'm with you. I think this is a fun way to continue to promote the university's basketball program. I also think it's interesting that, like, you know, it kind of shows that this is not a flash in the pan. The last couple of years have been great for Houston, that there were like these guys that were there at the start, and relative to their peers, these guys and other alumni groups, they are really good. And it's a chance to cheer for Rob Gray again. It's a chance to cheer for Devin Davis. It's a chance to cheer for these guys again. But I think there's also something to the bigger picture of this. We have a long time between now and the end, hopefully. But, Mike, I want to keep talking every time these games happen. In the interim, you had a big night on Beer Sports, whatever, last night. You got a bunch of stuff going on. So talk to us about what you got going on.
Man, we got Brian McDonald. God, with this tournament, you forget what day it is. Today's Tuesday. Thursday night on my Facebook, I got Brian McDonald of ESPN 97.5 joining us to talk about everything from the NFL. We're going to talk about the TBT. We're going to be talking wrestling. We're going to be talking about the massive matchup coming up between Kobayashi and Joey Chestnut, where the hot dog eating championship needs to stay where it belongs, in the United States of America. So we're going to cut 60-second promos on that, on why Joey Chestnut will destroy Kobayashi. We're going to talk boxing with that big matchup coming up between Jake Paul, Mike Tyson later in the year. We got wrestling paper. We got SummerSlam coming up. So if you're a fan of beer, of sports, and whatever else is going to come up, tune into my Facebook. We go live 8 p.m. Thursday night. You can find me on Facebook at Mike Brown. We'll also be live on my Twitter at MikeBrown_2020.
Mike's doing all kinds of fun stuff over there. There's a lot of fun stuff going on in the world. Here with the folks in the Coogs. Forever Coogs keep on going. We'll keep talking about it. We got a whole Big 12 conference to talk about, too, with all kinds of chaotic things happening every day, it sounds like. Football's around the corner. We got to talk about what's going to be on the field this fall for Willie Fritz's first year. Lots of fun things to talk about. As CA37 says, I love TBT. Come back to Houston. I hope it continues to grow. I would point out that those places with big crowds have had the tournament several years in a row to get to that point. So let's keep it growing. Locked On Coogs is a proud member of the Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team every day, forever and ever, as the Forever Coogs would say. Go Coogs, man.